ParshaCast.com presents.
It's the 12th of January 2017, the 15th of Tevet 5777. The Parsha is VaYechi. We finish the book of Bereshit this week. I'm Eitan Guten. Welcome to the ParshaCast. Welcome to this, the 11th episode of the ParshaCast. I don't have a guest this week, so instead I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to go back to the first Midrash Monday from about a week and a half ago, where I discussed Yehuda and Yosef and their battle royale, and I asked a question, and I'm going to talk about my own answer to that question. Second, I have a few thoughts on Yaakov and VaYechi, this week's Parsha, and the what kind of relationship we're supposed to have with Hashem, what kind of relationship we can establish with Hashem, with God, based on Yaakov's actions. But before I get to all that, I have a request. If you're somebody who watches this and enjoys it, please spread the word. Share it on Facebook. Don't just like it. Don't just follow it. Share it on your timeline on Facebook so that your friends can enjoy this Parsha learning as much as you do. And if you haven't done so already and you have the means, please consider becoming a ParshaCast patron. Just go to ParshaCast.com for more information. Okay, let's get to some learning. So last week, on Midrash Monday, I talked about this battle that goes on in the Midrash between Yehuda and Yosef when Yosef tries to keep Benjamin in Egypt but send the rest of the brothers back to Yaakov. And I asked a question. Why do we have midrashim where the human characters from the Torah become superheroes, gain superpowers? So Yehuda says, "I'll draw my sword," and Yosef says, "I'll wrap it around your neck." And Yehuda talks about being able to swallow Yosef whole, or being able to bathe the streets of Egypt in blood, and Yosef has an answer for every single one of those. And then, if you remember, Yehuda lets out a roar so mighty in the story. He lets out this roar, and it's so powerful that the walls of Egypt fall, and Pharaoh falls off his throne, and guards' heads spin around and their teeth fall out, and all sorts of other stuff. Why even have a midrash like this? We know that Yosef was a human being. We know that Yehuda was a human being. They probably didn't have special powers, so why tell this kind of story? So I got some interesting answers. I want to share my own, though. My answer is to give credit for these stories to the Greeks, to the Romans, to the Babylonians. I'll explain. For a good chunk of our history as Jews, the land of Israel was under the purview of other nations. And those nations, especially the Greeks, but also the Babylonians and the Romans, those nations had their mythologies. They had these multiple gods. And these multiple gods didn't just interact with humans, they interacted with each other. They would get into giant battles, they would trick each other, they would cast spells on each other. They would do all these supernatural things, and it was just part of being a god. Now, us Jews, we didn't really have a mythology like that. First of all, we're monotheistic. We only have one divine being that gets a personality, and that's Hashem. Hashem is Hashem. We don't have Hashem in a battle royale with another god. We don't have Hashem playing a trick on another divine being and getting them to give up their staff, or getting them trapped in the underworld, or something like that. That's just not how Hashem is portrayed in our text. And yet, we were surrounded by these stories for generations. So I think that one reason these stories developed and then lasted long enough was to be written down was because it gave us something that surrounded us in the Greek and Roman culture that we were lacking. It gave us something fantastic to talk about around the table, or around the fire, or in the market, the same way that today we might talk about Game of Thrones, or the latest episode of Westworld, or the latest comic book movie. Midrashim like this one gave us a culture, a storytelling culture, that was able to go beyond the Torah. Now again, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but I do think that that's one of the reasons why these type of midrashim exist. Okay, on to the Parsha. So this week's Parsha is VaYechi. It's the final one in the book of Bereshit, and most of it is concerned with the end of Yaakov's life and the messages he's delivering while he's on his deathbed. Now, as I've said in a previous ParshaCast, Yaakov is one of many characters in the Torah who go on a classical hero's journey. But one aspect of his hero's journey which was unique, which sticks out compared to the hero's journeys of Avraham, of Yitzchak, of Yosef, and even the hero's journey of Moshe, actually. Something that sticks out is that Yaakov's relationship with Hashem is a conditional one. Let's go back. Let's go back to chapter 28. It's towards the beginning of Parshat VaYechi. He's on the run. He has nothing but the clothes on his back. He has this vision. God makes a promise. He wakes up, and what does he say? Im Yihye Elohim imadi. If Hashem is with me, if I have food to eat, if I have clothing to wear, if I return to my father's house in peace, then Hashem will be my God. That's what Yaakov says. Yaakov has, for the first time in our Torah, a conditional relationship with God. And I want to look at one word in what he says in chapter 28, in verse 20, imadi, with me, because we see that word again. We see a version of it show up in this week's Parsha. In Yaakov's final conversation with Yosef. So here's the setting. Yaakov is about to die. Yosef's servants come to him and say, Yosef, your father's ready to die. And Yosef rushes to his side, brings his two sons with him. So it's Yosef, it's Ephraim, and it's Menashe in a room with Yaakov. So first Yaakov gives a blessing. Gives a blessing to the two boys about their future, and that blessing is really the blessing that Yosef is meant to get. Yosef's blessings are conveyed to this generation, Ephraim and Menashe, as if they were of Yosef's generation, as if they were directly the direct children of Yaakov. And as part of his final conversation with Yosef, after these blessings are given, Yaakov says the following. This is in chapter 48, verse 21. He says, V'haya Elohim imachem, v'heshiv etchem el eretz avotechem. God will be with you. There's that word again. Imadi, if God is with me, imachem. God will be with you. And the you here is plural. God will be with all of you, all my descendants, and return you to the land of your fathers. Return you to the land of your ancestors, to the land of Canaan, the land that today we call by the name Yisrael, the land of Israel. So of course, as you can hear, I think this moment is parallel to the first. Yaakov saying, if God is with me and returns me home, and here Yaakov is saying, God will be with you and return your home. Now, as I said before, Yaakov had a conditional relationship with God, but here, Yaakov seems to be instead telling Yosef, telling Ephraim and Menashe, by extension telling all of his descendants, have faith. God is there for you. God will be there for you. It seems to leave aside the conditional aspect of Yaakov's relationship. You know, in the first story, Yaakov is in awe of God, but somehow manages to still be a skeptic. But here, he's ending his life as a faithful partner of Hashem and encouraging the same faith among his children. Now, we Jews use the Torah often as sort of a guide to how we are supposed to establish a relationship with Hashem, a relationship with the divine. And Yaakov's relationship seems to be delivering a bit of a mixed message. Should we be the Yaakov who wrestles with Hashem, wrestles with God and with men? Or should we be the Yaakov who tells Yosef to accept, to take it on faith that Hashem will be there? Which one? Which Yaakov are we meant to be? Which Yisrael, which people of Israel Which set of descendants of Yaakov's are we to be? Well, I wonder, looking at this text, I wonder whether there's something else going on. What if Yaakov is still not 100% sure of God's intentions? He's about to die. What can he do to protect his descendants, his children, his grandchildren, once he's gone? He's not going to be around anymore to wrestle with Hashem. So what can he do to make sure that Hashem will be there? Well, he can subtly go back to that moment when he was a young man on the run with no clothes on his back and issue an open challenge to God. His message that Hashem will be with Yosef and return Yosef and all the people of Israel, all his descendants to the land. It's not a message for Yosef. It's a message to Hashem. Hashem, Yaakov is saying, your job doesn't end when I die. You have promises to keep. I'm going to tell Yosef what those promises are. He'll tell his children. They'll tell their children for generations if necessary until you come through. So be careful if you abandon them, because they, in turn, they could abandon you. We continue to apply this sort of pressure respectfully to Hashem to this very day. Every day, 3 times a day, and 4 times on holidays. We remind Hashem in the Amidah, in that prayer that we say standing up and quietly, we remind Hashem that certain promises were made to our ancestors. Certain promises were made about our strength as a people. Certain promises were made about the land of Israel and our special relationship with it, and we expect those promises to be kept. And every time we say the Amidah, every time we say these prayers, we live up to the legacy of our namesake, to the legacy of Yisrael, that man who wrestled with both men and God, and who came out on top. So as we finish the book of Breshit, I do want to give a special thanks to all my guests who joined me on the ParshaCast for these first 11 episodes. And those guests are my father, Abba Jules Guten, Bettina Schwarzman, Allison Katz-Kaufman, Rabbi Rachel Ain, David Zinner, Rabbi Ed Bernstein, David Helfand, Miles Roger, and Rabbi Jeremy Fierstein. Thank you to all of you who joined me as a guest. Thank you to all of you who have listened to the ParshaCast, who have watched the videos, who have spread the word. Thank you in particular to those who have chosen to become patrons. And I'm really excited to get started on Sefer Shemot, on the second book of the Torah, next week. In the meantime, I'd like to wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom.